Well, it's finally here, everybody. The NFL playoffs. Welcome to the Sportsnet NFL Playoff Prediction Show. Andy McNamara alongside Shoaib Ali. Show against all the odds. And well, maybe we're not fully out of the woods yet, but we got through a whole NFL season, and now it's playoff time. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I can't believe it has already 2021. The New Year's here. Playoff football is right around the corner. We always joke that COVID rests on Sundays. It'll have to rest on Saturday too. I think for us to continue getting through all these games.
Right. So today we're going to take you through the wild card weekend all the way through to the Super Bowl, and you can hit us up on Twitter at AndyMC81 at SNSLE. Leave your comments in the comments section below as well. Let us know your predictions. You think we're nuts? You agree? Who do you got going all the way? So, let's begin with the Saturday games. As you said, here we got the Saturday, we have the Sunday games. We'll begin with the Indianapolis Colts at the Buffalo Bills. And this matchup, the more I try to think about it, the less chance I think the Colts have, Like, the defense is solid. But the best part of the Colts defense is against the run. They're second against the run. Bills don't run the ball because they don't have to, because they got Josh Allen, who throws it all over the yard. And you got Stephon Diggs as the leading receiver in the NFL. Like, when I just look at this, and the Colts defense, it's not going to be a cakewalk by any means. But as long as Josh Allen doesn't freak out like he did in last year's playoffs, I think the Bills are going to be just fine.
Well, and I think, too, that when you look at the Bills and you look at the strides this team has made year over year, it's a completely night and day, right? And I think certainly you can look at the addition of Stephon Diggs to say, yeah, this is why the Bills are so good. But it's also just the maturity level from Josh Allen, the play calling from Sean McDermott, the play calling on defense certainly as well, even though the defense has been a little more maligned this season than perhaps the past 2-3 years. But even so, in the past, maybe the second half of the season, let's say, they've taken some real strides, right? They've gotten guys back healthy. Matt Milano is back healthy. Tremaine Edmonds is back healthy. The defensive line is playing better. So it's true. I do agree with you in the sense that the Colts will have it really tough. I think this is also a tough matchup for the Bills on defense, like you said. But, I mean, given the way the offense has been playing, I think they're one of the highest scoring offenses in the entire NFL. And now the Colts are a top 10 offense themselves. But I just think with the different play styles, I really do think the Bills it would be hard to see them losing in the opening round.
I think you just keep Josh Norman away from Jonathan Taylor. Has he landed yet from Derrick Henry's stiff arm? Has he come to keep him away from another powerful back? Keep him away.
Yeah, you don't want him to get banished to the Shadow Realm again.
No. That was one of the best memes, gifs, whatever. They'll live forever. All right. So Buffalo about a 6.5-point favorite. I'm taking them straight up to win. I don't care what the spread is, Show. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills. How about you?
Yeah, I'm taking the Bills as well. How could you not, right? I mean, the Bills have been, I want to say in the second half of the season, they were the most explosive offense in the NFL, as good as Indy is. I'm taking the Bills straight up.
Yeah. I think it's one of the easier picks of the weekend. So that's the 105 Eastern game to start off wildcard weekend around the National Football League. All right, let's move to the 440 Eastern game. We got the LA Rams taking on the Seattle Seahawks. It's in Seattle, Show, as we know, with much fewer fans. It's not the same Seattle. 12-4 versus 10-6. Now, Jared Goff has been practicing, had the surgery on the thumb. Looks like he might play regardless, though. I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, okay, playoff time, am I going to put my money on Jared Goff, bum thumb, or am I going to go with Russell Wilson? I know the offense has trailed off to a certain degree. You got Carson pretty healthy. You got the beast known as DK Metcalf. And I know he's been held in check before, but you got to worry about him. And you still have a sprinkling of wide receivers and weapons in Russell Wilson himself.
This is going to be a really close game. I really do think that. And it's divisional matchups are always really strange to begin with, even outside of the playoffs. And then you look at the matchup within the playoffs as well, two teams that know each other very, very, very well. I do agree with you that Jalen Ramsey probably matching up with DK Metcalf is going to make for some pretty interesting battles throughout this game. And yeah, teams have basically sold out to stop the passing game with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf for Russell Wilson. But I agree with Jared Goff being banged up. How could you really trust that too much. The Rams offense also has looked a little discombobulated. Whether you want to pin that on Jared Goff or whether you want to pin that on Sean McVay or whomever you want to pin that on, it has looked a little off. So I like the Seahawks in this one as well. They are the champions of the NFC West for a reason. And then also, I mean, let's just say for a second, Andy, because Sean McVay has not he has declined to confirm who will be the quarterback, let's say, ahead of this game. And let's say it is John Wolford. I believe since 2002, so since the divisions were realigned, quarterbacks making their first start in the wild card game are 9-30. Okay,
Correct.
so if John Wolford is getting the start, I mean, if we're both taking Seattle, so be it. But if John Wolford gets the start, man, it's not going to be pretty for LA, I don't think.
The Rams are going to be about their defense. Cam Akers is listed as questionable. I think you feel a whole lot better if Akers was in there. I agree. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be low scoring. They split the season series. Ultimately, though, I'm going to go with the pedigree of the Seattle Seahawks. Are you with me?
Yeah, I think it's again hard to go away from Seattle. I know home field advantages don't really mean what they used to with the lack of crowd or lack of energy there. But yeah, Seattle has got to be the way I go with Russell Wilson back there. And
the third game of the triple header on Wild Card Saturday, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, not a home game show. Okay, not a home 11-5 versus the NFC East winning 7-9 Washington football team. Somebody had a backwards fall into winning that division. And it was Washington. It's been a great story with Alex Smith, comeback player of the year. Absolutely no doubt. You got Antonio Gibson getting healthy. He's been a rock star. You got Terry McLaurin, who can succeed with any quarterback. J.D. McKissick, one of our fantasy favorites, right? He's been somebody that you could look to. Logan Thomas. However, that all being said, you got Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. You got Gronk. You got Ronald Jones in the backfield. Come on, man. I think even though Washington's defense is beyond respectable, like that front line, right? You have the whole defensive line is first-round picks. The first guy off the bench is a former first-round pick. So the key is going to be throughout Tom Brady's career, if you can frazzle him, if you can rustle him a little bit, you got a shot. I just don't know if that's going to be enough for Washington.
Yeah, that has proven to clearly been the key to success against Tom Brady-led teams in the playoffs, right? Get pressure with the front four right in his face and make him move. And I'm sure that problem is only exacerbated when you have, Chase Young, who is, I think, something like 20 or 21 years old, absolute monster on the defensive line, along with all those other guys you talked about, versus a 43-year-old Tom Brady running around back there. Yeah, that usually, if memory serves, ends in success for the 21-year-old and not the 43-year-old. But at the same time, yes, the Washington offense has been it sputters, right? It's just and it's through no fault of the very talented skill position players who you all mentioned there. It's just the Washington offense, one of the lower averages over the past 5 weeks of the season, and now they're going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and now the Bucs defense has fallen off a little bit over the course of the season, but I think as that's happened, the offense has gelled a little more, right? And you mentioned Evans and Godwin and Brown and Gronk and the running backs as well with Brady. It's just I don't really see how you slow down that offense, even with a very talented front seven like Washington has. Also, really fun fact, the last time a 7-win team made the playoffs was when Ron Rivera's team, Carolina Panthers, beat an Arizona Cardinals team led by Bruce Arians. How funny is that?
Revenge game. Revenge for Bruce. There's just not enough horses for Washington to keep up with Alex Smith, where he's at in his career, skill set-wise. Love him. Love the story. But I think it's going to come to an end. I'm going to go Tampa Bay, and they're favored by 8. I'll take that. I think they win by 10.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a double-digit win. Just the offense, a lot was made in the off season because there was no preseason, but about how the lack of a preseason affected the getting up to speed for Brady and all of his wide receivers, and you can kind of see that as they were a little out of sync to start the year, and then in the second half of the season, the Bucs offense really seemed to wake up. And a lot of that was attributed to Brady finally getting time to gel with his receivers. And I think that's going to continue in a win over Washington. Yeah,
and we'll see. Washington's given up the second fewest yards per game to opposing offenses. So hopefully a little bit close in that, but we're both going with Tampa Bay. All right, now we get to Sunday, and we'll start with the early game. We have the 105 Baltimore Ravens at the Tennessee Titans. And, of course, this is all assuming – COVID stuff keeps in check, whatever. Who knows? This thing changes by the hour, if not by the minute. So let's begin there. You got Ravens, you got Titans. Baltimore 3-point favorites on the road. I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans. I see analysts, pundits all over going against Tennessee. Lamar Jackson. Do you people not remember? Okay? They beat the Baltimore Ravens. That's what Mike Vrabel does. That's what this defense does. Lamar Jackson has not won in the playoffs. He's not going to win this time. He got beat by the Tennessee Titans earlier this year. They have the blueprint show. They have the formula. They know how to beat Lamar Jackson. Guess what? Lamar Jackson's regressed this year. Look at the fancy stats all you want. They had the easiest schedule down the stretch last quarter of the season. I think the Tennessee Titans and Ryan Tannehill, nobody respects Ryan Tannehill. Everyone talks about Derrick Henry. Okay, he might only have to throw the ball 8-9 times. But Ryan Tannehill can beat you. And I think the Tennessee Titans win this thing going away. Not double digits, but I think they win it straight up.
And I do think an aspect of this perhaps matchup that is being underlooked a little bit is the Ravens' run defense has not been good, let's say, right? And of all the teams they could face that would exacerbate this problem, it is the Tennessee Titans, right? I mean, they have Derrick Henry, a guy who just ran for 2,000 yards, who is getting MVP consideration, probably won't win because, bias for quarterbacks and so on, but he is undoubtedly the MVP on that offense, even over Ryan Tannehill. And the Ravens' run defense gives up 4.4 yards a carry, which is absolutely wild. And then you add in Derrick Henry to that. Yeah, it's just I don't see this going all that well for the Ravens because in the 2 wins for Tennessee over Baltimore in the last 12 months or so, Derrick Henry has averaged a little over 160 yards in those 2 games, Andy. That is absolutely insane. Now, I do think it will be close. I don't think this will be a double-digit win for either team, but I actually think I am going to go with the Titans here as well. They know how to beat the Baltimore Ravens. They know how to keep Lamar Jackson in check. Jackson might still have gaudy numbers by the end of this game, and they have been running the ball really, really, really well. I mean, what do you think the over-under on combined passes from Lamar Jackson and Ryan Tannehill? Is it like over 25 maybe?
Boy, you know what? I think you might be spot on there, Show. Yeah, like this team we saw last year in the playoffs for Ryan Tannehill. They had games where he threw it under 10 times.
Right.
But and for Lamar Jackson, he can chuck it. And I like that you said the overall numbers you might look at and think, wow, like last year in the loss, he put up, there was like 500 total yards of offense. So what? He lost. So what?
Yeah.
Okay. You still lost. Doesn't matter if you have 1,000 yards of offense. You still lost the game. So I think when you look at, for the Ravens, you got Lamar Jackson. J.K. Dobbins has been coming on nicely, but you can't rely on the receivers. And if the Titans do what they've done before, you box in Lamar Jackson. You don't blitz him. He'll run around you. You don't blitz him. You drop back into coverage, confuse him a little bit. You're going to win the game. And just Ryan Tannehill's numbers, 33 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. Like, let's give the man his due. This is not a game manager. He's beyond that, I think. So we're both going Titans over the Ravens. The 4:40 game, Chicago Bears into the Saints. And don't look now, Show. Mitch Trubisky's a quarterback again. Oof. He's back. He got the team to the playoffs. This offseason storyline, I think, is going to be fascinating for Chicago. The Nick Foles experiment didn't work. Mitch Trubisky, is he a sure thing? Absolutely not. But look, I got you to the playoffs. Like, he's kind of like, I'm almost sort of getting a little bit of like Miami Ryan Tannehill feels off of Mitch Trubisky. You know what I mean? Right. Like a little, like he's slow to progress. Remember, he was only a 1-year starter in college. Ryan Tannehill played wide receiver his first 2 years in college, and it took him a while. So maybe Mitch Trubisky could still be the future quarterback of the Chicago Bears. So I wonder how that's all going to play out. This is a case where David Montgomery, the last half of the season, since their bye, has really come on finally. You have Allen Robinson. And the question show is going to be, Drew Brees, last hurrah, guy's retiring. That arm of his, the 11 fractured ribs somehow, he's back from it, the punctured lung. How does that offense look for New Orleans? That's going to be the issue. Can they distribute the ball well enough?
I think that the key here for this game will obviously be defenses, right? I think this is going to be a pretty low-scoring game from top to bottom for both teams, right? Because the Bears boast a very talented defense, as do the New Orleans Saints. I really think that this will be a game where you see Drew Brees not take a lot of deep shots, and even with Michael Thomas back and even with Emmanuel Sanders in the fold, I really do think that you won't see them chuck the ball down the field all that often. It'll be a lot of short passes, short passing game, kind of dink and dunk. Maybe, and certainly that is, like you said, not a lot of arm strength for Drew Brees left in the tank, really, at his age. But when you have weapons like Michael Thomas working in the short passing game, he got over, setting the season record for catches last year. And even though this was an injury-riddled season for him, he's going to get back to doing that. And then you add in Alvin Kamara. How can you forget about Alvin Kamara, right? The guy is just absolutely phenomenal.
6 touchdowns. Come on.
Oh my goodness, he is just so good. And like between him and Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders working in that short passing game, I think that you're going to see a lot of ball control, long possessions. Maybe they end in field goals. I mean, you hope not, certainly, if you're a fan of either team. But still, this is going to be a low-scoring game. I do think the Saints pull it out in the end, and I think it will be because of the savvy and the experience for Drew Brees over Mitch Trubisky.
And to see Michael Thomas able to come off of the IR, what does he do? Even if he's just on the field, you have to respect the presence of him. Now, the line's set at 10. I don't think the Saints are going to win by 10. I think this is much closer, and Chicago with that defense can maybe suffocate them a little bit. Or like you said, maybe long drives, fewer opportunities, and you have a lot of it takes 3 full downs to get the first down and keep moving type of game.
Right.
But in the end, we look at the weapons. I just think there's too many options, and it's safe to say you got to be taking Drew Brees over Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah,
any day, right? Come on.
That's the thing, right?
And the last one, the Sunday nighter, the Cleveland Browns into Heinz Field to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, a place they haven't won in 17 years. The drought of 18 years of not being in the playoffs is over. And after being a Browns fan, I got to be happy for one full day. One full day.
There you go.
And then COVID just rained down its fury. No head coach Kevin Stefanski, no starting left guard Joel Bitonio, no wide receiver Kadero Hodge. You have other players coming off the COVID list, maybe, and this, and contact tracing. It would have been a tough deal to begin with for the Browns to go in there. I still think that Pittsburgh offense isn't what it once was at all. Remember, their last good bit of football was the second half in that Colts game where they came from behind. The previous 3 games where they lost 3 in a row, Roethlisberger and that offense was terrible. There was drops, there was inconsistencies. It was not good.
Yeah, I think if you're a Steelers fan, you're definitely hoping to see more of the, like you said, the second half of the Colts game in which they locked up the AFC North versus the 3 games before that, right? But at the same time, I mean, yeah, you look at all the COVID problems with the Browns, and obviously you're wearing your brown shirt there. What is Kevin Stefanski's absence going to do to this offense? I'm genuinely curious as to what you think, because is it worth, when you look at, let's say, how spreads move, is it worth 3 points? Is it worth more than that? Is it worth less than that? As a Browns fan, I'm genuinely curious what you think.
I think the combo of Stefanski and Joel Bitonio at left guard. Remember, this is a run-heavy team,
right?
At least at its strength. Now, we've seen Baker Mayfield has been able to shred different defenses at times this year, but it's all based, like we talked about Tannehill and the Titans, off of play action. To be able to respect that. Browns are the 3rd best rushing team on a per-game average this year, and that's a large part of that's the offensive line. Now, their 2 backups are also out injured. So they're going practice squad guy, Michael Dunn, to fill in for Bitonio. So the combo of that with Kevin Stefanski, who's just been an absolute rock, keeping everybody calm, and he'll be able to get people ready for the game, I think it is worth that. But more so, show also that the Browns have only been able to practice like twice in person over the last 2 weeks. As of Wednesday, the facility was still closed. They're doing everything virtual. You got to, at some point, practice in person. You can read as many notes as you want, right, Joe? Like me and you can read many playbooks as we want. We're not playing good. Okay, but you got to get on the field to do it, and that's why I think it's going to be just too much. Hope I'm wrong. Nobody hopes I'm more wrong than me, but I just think the fact that they're not able to practice for about 2 weeks on any sort of regular basis, I think it's just going to be too much.
Yeah, and if they have any more guys who are out, I know in the regular season finale, Ward did not play, their defensive back as well, right? And then you look at how, let's say he misses the game or is limited in any way, or if any other guys are out, and you look at the stable of wide receivers for Pittsburgh, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, the Canadian player. All of them have been so talented throughout the year. And I really think that the biggest thing that led to, and you and I spoke about this throughout the season, that has led to the problems for Pittsburgh on offense have really been all of the drops and perhaps the diminished arm strength for Big Ben, because he was throwing it 50 times a game, it seemed, at the very least, with no really stable run game to speak of with James Conner or anyone else back there, Snell or McFarland or whoever. So let's just say that they do get even a little back up to snuff. I really think this, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say this to you, but it might be a difficult one for the Steelers, or for the Browns to win.
All right, let's take a look now at the divisional round playoffs, assuming our first round picks were correct. This is what we got. We'll begin with the AFC divisional round here. The Tennessee Titans versus the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. Remember, you can hit us up on Twitter at AndyMC81, at SNS Ali. Let us know your picks and tell us what you think about our picks. So when we look at the Titans and Chiefs show, very interesting matchup. And this is not as good a Titans defense as a year ago. The Chiefs, while I guess sputtering to their expectations would be maybe fair to say. Clyde Edwards-Helaire banged up. I just have to think, though, that once playoff time hits, can they flip the switch? You talk about that in different sports. Can they flip the switch? I think the Chiefs can flip the switch.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Chiefs are the number one seed for a reason. They pretty much, it felt like, cruised through much of the season, even though they didn't beat a team by a significant margin for a lot of the year. It never really felt like much of these outcomes were in doubt whenever you have the trio of Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And I think those guys, and we can talk about the defense as well, but those guys, and you add in the role players, you add in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who, like you said, was banged up, the addition of Le'Veon Bell, the other guys in the running back room as well. They're almost impossible to kill, it feels like, when you're the Chiefs, right? You take out Tyreek Hill, you double Tyreek Hill, who's a speedster, you have Travis Kelce to deal with. If you double him, you have Hill to deal with, or maybe Patrick Mahomes is just going to run the ball himself, right? And of all the problems for the Tennessee Titans, most of their issues, I feel, have come on defense, right? The defense has been largely non-existent for large stretches of the season. And I mean, look, you only have to look back to the final week of the regular season to see Deshaun Watson pretty much do whatever he wanted for the entire game against that team. You got to think that Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to do much, much worse.
And running wise, again, for the Titans, it's going to be leaning on Derrick Henry, and the Chiefs are a bottom half of the league, bottom third of the league in stopping the run, in rush yards allowed per game. So that's going to be the same formula. We know that. But they're the top in passing yards. They're the top in total yards for Kansas City is on offense. I just think it's, again, going to be when they do flip that switch, they can just overwhelm you, and they can keep going and going and going. And I think it's going to be just a bit too much. So we'll take both take the Chiefs to advance. How about Steelers at Bills? And this is a case, again, where we just talked about, for Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger, that elbow. They went 11-0, but 38 years old. Running game's not there. They have had some drops. Now, when that offense is clicking, really good. On defense, you have TJ Watt, but you're without key pieces like Bud Dupree. You don't have Devin Bush at linebacker. You do have some good corners, right? You'll get Joe Hayden back if this scenario plays itself out. But still, with Buffalo and the offense, and just how Josh Allen and Diggs and the whole bunch, John Brown back, I just think, again, it's going to be a case where they're going to overwhelm you with offense, and that Pittsburgh, at this point in Roethlisberger's career, just won't be able to keep up.
This, I think, is going to be a closer matchup because, I mean, you only have to look back to the matchup between these two teams in the regular season, and it was very close, right? It seemed like almost like a boxing match with two heavyweights taking blows at one another, and then before one finally gives in. And in the regular season, it was Pittsburgh, and I expect it to be Pittsburgh again who gives in, if only because, like you said, I feel like they have a smaller margin to make mistakes because of Big Ben's age and just perhaps slightly reduced mobility and slightly reduced athleticism and all the things that come when you talk about aging quarterbacks, right? And look, the Deontay Johnson and Juju and Claypool are so talented. Probably a more talented trio than I think than Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, and John Brown, but not by a lot. And because you add in just the absolute rocket of an arm that Josh Allen has, the increased maturity, his great decision making, all the things that have made the Buffalo Bills one of the, if not the most dangerous team in the NFL over the second half of the season. I mean, I find it hard to see the Steelers really taking advantage of too many mistakes they make, even though the Steelers do have a very talented defense still.
All right, so that's the AFC. So we're taking Chiefs, we're taking the Bills. Oh, that'd be fun. We'll talk about that in a minute. NFC, Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Green Bay Packers. Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers. Let's go, right? Like 48 touchdowns for Aaron Rodgers. Just like, this is a case to me when you look at Aaron Rodgers, sort of like if anyone's had a dog, like an old dog, and then you bring in a puppy, the old dog for a while kicks back up. They're like, no, I'm still good. Jordan Love was that young pup. They drafted him. And they're like, okay, we're going to sit him. Aaron Rodgers said, okay, not interested. Guy has one of his best seasons ever. You got Robert Tunyon, a guy rising up out of the time. Devontae Adams is a beast. Aaron Jones as well, right? Like then you got Tampa Bay with all the weapons that we chatted about before. Gronk, you got Brown, you got Evans, you got Godwin, and Tom Brady. Like, so this one, I hope is high scoring, and I think it's going to be really close.
Yeah, this is the matchup I feel like when Brady was with the Pats for so many years, everyone was hoping you'd see in the Super Bowl, right? Everyone wanted to see Rodgers and Brady in the Super Bowl. Now you're getting to see it in the divisional round if all things go well. But yeah, you know what? As much as I love the Packers and I love seeing Devontae Adams play, Aaron Jones, like you mentioned, has had a phenomenal year, piling up almost 1,500 yards from scrimmage. Just absolutely ridiculous, right? But I really do think, and I'm not going to draw too much on their previous meeting this season, because that was probably the one dud the entire Packers offense and Aaron Rodgers personally probably had all year, maybe even dating back to last year, probably one of Aaron Rodgers' worst game as a professional quarterback, right? And you look at, so, you know, how much can you really draw from that? Maybe they look to avoid certain things they did in that game. But at the same time, I really like the Buccaneers here. And again, I really do think, even with the reduced mobility, we just talked about this for Pittsburgh, the reduced mobility for the Buccaneers quarterback with Brady, I just think that the complement of weapons will be a little too much for the Packers to handle. And one of the Packers' defensive flaws, perhaps their biggest flaw, has been against the run. And Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette are probably one of the better 1-2 punches you have out there in the playoffs.
Yeah. And you know what? Again, I think this is going to be really close. I'm going to say Green Bay. Okay. I think the Packers pull that out. It's in Lambeau, you know, and let's face it, you don't have the fans there. And Tom Brady, this isn't your typical Florida quarterback. Okay, he's fine playing in the cold. He's just fine. Knows what to do. So does Gronk. The other NFC divisional matchup, the New Orleans Saints taking on the Seattle Seahawks. And one funny story, Sean Payton, head coach of the Saints, apparently was trying to concoct some scheme to quarantine 50,000 Saints fans to get them into the first game, into the wild card game. The league was like, stop it, Sean. That's enough. Get back to your studies. No, it's not going to. But the wheels are always turning for Sean Payton. You look at this one, Drew Brees, right? One of the best all time. Last hurrah. I just got to feel, with even though they've slid, Russell Wilson dropped out of the MVP conversation, it's just that team and that defense. The Seahawks defense was like a laughingstock for the first half of the season, and it all changed when Carlos Dunlap came, a rotational player on the Bengals. I'm not saying it's all because of him, but it seems like with his addition, they were able to pressure opposition quarterbacks just a bit more. And just with the increased defense, I'm going to put my money on Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf to go in and get it done. I just think you're able to do that. And maybe Drew Brees, you know, it's just one throw too many.
Yeah, you know what? That's a tough one. This is going to be another really, really close game. Funny to think that if our picks go well, that all four remaining NFC quarterbacks will be our Super Bowl champions. They've all been there before. They've all gone to the big game and won it, right? So I think that'll be a really interesting matchup, because all of them are fully capable of taking over a game and doing basically whatever they want, right?
Sure.
You know what? I do think that ultimately the Seahawks are so talented on offense as well, but they have also sputtered, right? And the Saints, and I think DK Metcalf in particular, I think whenever he has to face a number one corner, I'm not saying he folds, but he does, I think has to adjust to that a little bit more, and maybe in the years to come it will get a little better. But I think that if all goes well and it is Saints Seahawks, I think Marshawn Lattimore is going to be certainly more than enough for DK Metcalf. So you know what? I'm going to say the Saints with Drew Brees, even with the diminished arm strength, the Saints do pull out the win over the visiting Seahawks and make it to the NFC Championship game to take on Tom Brady.
Those two NFC matchups, I think, are going to be sensational if they play out the way with our prediction. So for NFC, I say Packers. Show says Bucks. Show says Saints. I go Seahawks. And for the AFC, we agreed on the Chiefs and the Bills. All right, let's now move to the championship games. Playoffs rolling along. And in our situation, the AFC championship game show we agreed on. Bills versus Chiefs. Oh, baby. Give me that. Give me that one. Unless it's the Browns, then I'll take that. But outside of that, Bills and Chiefs, offenses. You got underrated defenses. Both teams similar in the aspect of they got decent running backs, but they don't have to use them. Like this game, I just think would be sensational. That's just to sit back with some popcorn, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. Again, probably another very close one. But I really do think that this is – the defense is not that they'll have no answer, but I really do find it'll be difficult for either team to keep up with the stable of position players, both at running back and at wide receiver and at tight end, really. I mean, maybe for the Bills, a little less at tight end, because how are you going to really compare Travis Kelce to, let's say, Dawson Knox at this stage, right? But pretty much everywhere else. I mean, Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs, right? You got the secondary guys, and so let's say Sammy Watkins or Hardman or Robinson comparing to, let's say, Cole Beasley or John Brown or any one of those other guys, right? So I really do think this will be a high-scoring affair. I don't know. It's crazy to say this, okay? This is a crazy thing to say, and I can't believe I'm actually going to go ahead and commit to this on the record. But the Buffalo Bills, I think, have as good a shot, if not the best shot, at anyone else in the entire NFL to go into Arrowhead and knock off the Kansas City Chiefs.
They got all the tools. All the tools are there. All the pieces are there. You got the quarterback. I'm going to say Chiefs, though, Show.
Okay.
I'm going to say Chiefs just because I feel Josh Allen and that Bills team 1 year away from that next step. If you keep everything, another year of continuity, add a little bit more to the defensive side as well, I think the Bills could very well be that team to go to the Super Bowl next year. But having not seen Josh Allen get one playoff win before this imaginary scenario right now, I'm just not quite there yet. And the Chiefs, the old Ric Flair saying, right? To be the man, you got to beat the man. And I don't think the Bills are ready to beat the man and Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs right now. So I'll say it's a great game. Both get like 40-something, but the Chiefs pull it out by like 5 or less points, and that it's a really fun game. So you'll say Bills to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'll go Kansas City Chiefs. Now, in the NFC scenario, we'll start with yours. You said Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the New Orleans Saints. Breeze, Brady, winner goes to the Super Bowl? Come on now. Like that would be just spectacular. Out of this scenario, how do you feel it plays out?
Yeah, look, I really think, again, we talked about this a little bit with Washington versus Tampa Bay and the defensive line getting in Brady's face. That's going to be another concern here too, right? It's going to be a real concern for Tampa Bay. But again, the Saints have not really had to keep up with a lot of offensively minded teams. And the couple times they did, they lost those games, right? I mean, look, we saw, it was another very close game. And I anticipate if this plays out the way we hope, this will also be a very close game. But the last time the Saints played a top 10 team in offensive stats were the Kansas City Chiefs. And again, they lost that game. So, I'm going to say, again, that even though this is going to be close, and I suspect this will be a lot of yardage to Alvin Kamara, a lot of yardage to Michael Thomas, who's coming off the injured reserve, I really think Brady is going to make it to the Super Bowl with his new team. Tampa Bay going to meet Buffalo in the Super Bowl. What better demon to slay for Buffalo than the big boogeyman, Tom Brady?
Boy, imagine that. And how about a stick it to the Patriots and Bill Belichick, right? You go, Tom Brady leads. Remember the questions. Is it Bill? Is it Tom? Well, Tom's in the Super Bowl, and Patriots didn't make the playoffs. I don't know. So I think when we look at that, I'm going to agree with you. In your scenario, I'll say Tampa Bay just because the arm talent of Tom Brady is in a better situation than Drew Brees right now. But that would be just a phenomenal battle. For me, I went Seahawks with the Packers. And if I'm looking there, okay, we talked about Russell Wilson. You talk about Aaron Rodgers. And when I'm looking at how these two offenses are right now, Packers ending the year, much more comfortable, much more in sync. Seattle can jump out at any point, we know, but I think the Packers are better equipped there. Defensively, I sort of feel they're kind of even. You know, they've been two up and down defenses. Seattle getting better at the end of the year, and Packers sort of in that middle section. You don't love, you don't hate it. So that being sort of a bit of a wash, if you look at the defensive side, I'll go with Green Bay. So I think it's Aaron Rodgers back to the dance, and we get Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. All right, Show, it is time for our Super Bowl picks. We have two different scenarios. Both, I think, would be just incredible television to be able to sit back and watch this action. We'll go with yours first. We got the Buffalo Bills versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In my scenario, the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Green Bay Packers. We get Bills versus Buccaneers. The Bills, and it's not the Patriots, but it's their old nemesis. It's Tom Brady, and you got the young buck, the rising star, the next one in Josh Allen against Tom Brady, who wants one more. Wants that one more to just, without a shadow of a doubt, prove it was him all along in New England. How do you think this one goes?
Oh, man, this will be the storylines that the various networks are going to concoct for this are just going to be so juicy. And obviously it's going to start, like you mentioned, with Tom Brady versus the Buffalo Bills. And look, Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane have done a phenomenal job of building the Bills. I think it has been amazing to see how they have changed the culture, right? Not just adding skill position players and adding talented guys and racking up passing yards and statistics and all sorts of things. I really do think that the culture change in Buffalo means that they are probably going to run the AFC East for maybe the next decade plus, right? And that's what you want if you're a Buffalo Bills fan. But unfortunately, I think the dream comes to an end in the Super Bowl for the Buffalo Bills, and the boogeyman, Baba Yaga, for Tom Brady is going to be a little too much, and he gets the last laugh, I think. I think Tom Brady clinches his next championship. He gets one more ring. It has to go on the other hand. He has so many rings now, and he gets the last laugh over his old foe, the Buffalo Bills.
And just sticks it to him one more time. How about my Super Bowl scenario? Right. The Kansas City Chiefs versus the Green Bay Packers. Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers. Wow. The two superstars. And you talk about guys sort of on the back end. Aaron Rodgers, 37 years old. How much longer does he have? And it's sort of in that Brett Favre conversation with the Packers. You had back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks who each have only won one Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like a bit of a, you take the championship, of course, but it seems like a little bit of a waste while the Chiefs want to continue the dynasty, grow the dynasty, and keep it going. So when we look at this one, we talk about the offenses, and both can pop, but I feel there's just more variety with the Chiefs, Show, right? Like, if you shut down, if you commit, Devontae Adams is not going to beat us. You still got to respect Aaron Jones for sure. But after that, do you feel like Robert Tonyan's going to beat you? MVS? Not the same as a Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Hardman. If Sammy Watkins is in there, you mix in their running backs also. I just feel there's more variety with Kansas City. I'm going to say Chiefs. I think in my scenario, Chiefs-Packers, I think the Chiefs repeat. Chiefs win it. Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, I like that. You know what, Andy? I'm going to go with you in that scenario as well. I think it'll be very close. I mean, we haven't really had a blowout in the Super Bowl, I think, for a number of years now. But I really do feel that, it'll be another notch in the bell of Andy Reid after not winning Super Bowls in his entire career. He's going to go back-to-back, and same for Patrick Mahomes.
So that'll do it, Show. Wild card weekend in the National Football League is up first. For Shoaib Alli, I'm Andy McNamara. You've been watching the NFL Playoff Preview Show on Sportsnet.